We want to look at histograms and stata. So look at the first application of histograms, where we can use them to display distribution of continuous variables, which are those that can take on any value in some reasonable range like age, weight, income, wealth, and score, etc. Now, when we use an histogram to plot the distribution of a continuous variable, it can only take one continuous variable at a time, which we graph on the x-axis. And by default, the y-axis will represent density, but you can also specify frequency or count as a y-axis value so that the height of each bar corresponds to how many observations for that bar represents. And the syntax is simple. You have histogram, then you write your continuous variable name. Again, you can only supply one continuous variable over here for which you want to see the distribution. And then after comma, you specify your options. So let's look at an example. So we want to look at the auto data set in Stata. Say we want to display the distribution of price, a continuous variable. So now if I just simply do histogram price, so we'll see what Stata is going to do is, but so we can see on the horizontal axis, we have our price variable price, which we want the distribution, and the vertical axis represents by default density. So what if I wanted to specify frequency or count in the vertical axis so that the height of each bar tells me the number of observations in that bar. So we can do that now. The height of each bar corresponds to how many observations fall in this particular bar. So this height corresponds to this many observations fall. Okay, basically for a price, for this price interval, these many observations fall in that. For this price interval, this many observations fall in that, and so on. Right, so now we have additional options that we can use with histogram. Let's explore those. Now, bin option, the first option I want to talk about is the bin option. Now, bin option allows us to specify how many bars do we want in our histogram, right? The thing is that you can specify how many bars do we want in our histogram. Over here, Stata has itself chosen the number of bars. We can specify how many total bars we want in our histogram. And so if I specify 12, then Stata will create a histogram with 12 bars, right? And so you can call it so if you choose how many bins or bars you want, then Stata will itself choose width of each bar, right? So basically, we can decide to choose how many bars do we want in our bars or bins do we want. So this is what we call bars, bins, intervals, classes, or buckets. So we can call this bars, bins, intervals, classes, or buckets. So we can choose how many, the number of bars that we want, but then Stata will choose the width of each bar itself. And then it will, so if I tell it I want 12 bars, then Stata will make 12 bars, but it will choose in width of each, but it will choose the width for the bars itself. And it will create each of them with an equal width that Stata chooses itself. For example, if I specify histogram price bin 12, so this is telling Stata I want 12 bins in my histogram, and Stata will then choose a width itself. Right now we can see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you can see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. What if I tell Stata I want 10 bars or bins? So Stata will now make 10, right? Now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What if I tell Stata I want 20 bins or bars? So see, the histogram can look quite different depending upon how many bins or bars we choose. So we can specify the total number of bins or bars we want. Again, and Stata will decide the width itself. Instead of specifying the number of bins, you can tell Stata what the width of each bar should be, right? So you can either specify the number of bins that you want to see in your histogram, then Stata will automatically choose the width. Or you can choose how wide do you want each bar would be, then Stata will accordingly choose the number of bins that are needed. So I can choose, so I can either choose the number of bars that Stata shows, then Stata will decide the width of each bar itself. Or I can choose how wide do I want each bar to be, then Stata will itself choose the number of bars that are appropriate, right? So say, for example, we choose a width of 1000. So we can see we've decided the width of 1000. So Stata has created each bar with the width of 1000 and has decided the appropriate number of bars is then 13, right? So each bar is now 1000 wide long, right? So each covers a range of prices. So each covers like 1000 unit range of prices, right? I could choose, for example, 1200. So we could choose the width of each bar to be 1200, right? So we can see over here that when instead of 1000, I told Stata I want each width to be 1200. So it has reduced the number of bars or bins from 13 to 11, right? So now the bars are wider. I could have chosen 1500. This will further reduce the number of bins or bars Stata. So, oh, sorry, Hannah. So here we can see we've told Stata now we want each bar to be 1500 wide. So each bar covers 1500 a 1500 unit range. right? So now the number of bins, it is further reduced to 9. So we can either tell Stata the number of bars that you want to see in a histogram. Stata will then decide an appropriate width for each bar. Or we can tell Stata how wide we want each bar to be. And then Stata will itself choose a number of bars that are appropriate. We can also specify the fill color in Stata. Like if we just do histogram price, we know Stata is just going to choose a color itself. But say if I wanted the fill color to be red, I can specify that. So we can also specify a specific color that we want to see using the F color option. We can also use L color to specify the bar outline color. So apart from fill color, we can also specify outline color. Like for example, over here, we know we specified here when we initially plotted histogram price, the Stata just choose the fill color in outline color itself. Here I specify the fill color using F color. So Stata made bars which had a fill color of red. I can also specify the line color. Say I want, in addition to this red fill color, I want line color to be black. So we can specify that today. So we can use F color to specify the fill color and L color to specify the line color. Then we also have the option of add label. Add label basically, because see, if I just say write histogram price, so this is going to show me the distribution of price with density on the vertical axis. We can tell Stata to add label so that the y-axis value appears on the bars, right? So we can do this. So now specifies density value on y-axis of each bar, right? So it specifies on top of each bar the density value on the y-axis of each bar. So specifies density value on top of each bar. Density value specifies on top of each bar, the density value on y-axis of each bar. Right, similarly, if I had used a frequency option here, then instead of density, we know by default you get density. If I use frequency option, then Stata would display the frequency account of each bar. Now over here, obviously it's not, so we know when we use frequency option, it tells us number of observations that fall in this particular interval. But these are the observations in my data set that fall in this particular price interval, right? So over here, it's not immediately obvious what the frequency is, right? It's not precisely obvious from here. So what we can do is we can use the add label option, and that will tell Stata to specify on top of each bar, the frequency value on y-axis of each bar, which represents the number of observations in each bar, right? Over here, I can't immediately tell what the y-axis value here is, what the y-axis value here is, what the y-axis value is. We can't precisely tell it. So we can tell Stata to add a label. Now Stata is telling me that in this price interval, we have 35 observations. In this price interval, we have 21. In this price interval, 4, then 2, and so on. So add label allows us to specify the y-axis value on top of each bar to more precisely read it. So we can combine all of these options that we just looked at, where we said you can specify bin to specify the total number of bars that you want in a histogram. But then if we specify the number of bars, then Stata will itself choose the width of each bar. Frequency allows us to, instead of density, to display on the vertical axis frequency or count, which counts the number of observations in each bar. F color specifies the fill color should be red, and L color specifies the line color should be white, and R label tells Stata to display the y-axis value on the top of each bar, which makes it more precisely to read. And here we're combining all the options. We have written the code over multiple lines using delimit, and this is something that has been done in detail in the do file essentials. All right, so we're not going to get into that. But yes, when you're writing a code over multiple lines, especially for graphs, because there's so many different options, it's helpful to use delimit to write the code over multiple lines instead of writing one long, tedious line of code. Right, so then we can combine all of these options and create a bar chart, right? So here we can see instead of density, we have frequency, which shows us number of observations in each bar because we use the frequency option here. And we can see we have 12 bins, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, because we told Stata that we want 12 bins in our histogram. We can see the fill color is red because we specified to Stata, the line color is white. And we also see that we have labels on the top of each bar, which specify the y-axis value corresponding to each bar because we told Stata to add labels. So we can also use normal option with histogram. If you want to draw a normal curve over a histogram, this helps us to check if data is approximately normally distributed, right? So this is the histogram for price, which shows the distribution of price, right? So I can put a normal curve on top of it in order to see whether this particular distribution is normally distributed or not approximately. We can also use the k-density option if you want to combine histogram and density plot of that continuous variable. For example, if I just do histogram price, so I just get this right. So I can also use the k-density option, and in addition to the histogram, it will also display the k-density plot of price.